What's your name?
My name's Randy.
Say again?
Randy.
Randy.
Randy, I'm sorry.
No, Randy.
Randy. Okay,
Yes.
go ahead, Randy. I'm sorry, I don't have a monitor up here, so it's hard for me to hear.
I don't know what to ask now because you kind of covered my question in this, wherever he went this question.
Well, ask anything.
Well, and this is something I always struggle with, is how can some of the things in the Old Testament be so cruel, but God love us so much?
Hey, sorry to interrupt the video real quick. If you are interested in finding out truth, whether that's what the Bible has to say about any sort of random subject, all the way to can creation actually testify that God is real, I want you to click subscribe. We're coming out with videos just like the one you're watching every single week. Our main goal is to help the skeptic come find Christ. If you believe in that, subscribe. See you later. Bye.
Well, let's go back to this
For a second. God is not just love, but he's also justice. Which is why, by the way, Jesus had to come. Because if he was just all love, borderless, in the sense that he never judged sin, then he wouldn't be God, because God is the standard of all the moral virtues, including justice. So in order for unjust people like you and me to not be punished, he has to punish somebody else who's innocent and who's voluntarily going to get the punishment, so we won't get that punishment. So he punishes basically himself. That way God remains just and the justifier of the one who has faith in Jesus. This is what the Apostle Paul says in Romans chapter 3, verse 26. So God is loving and he's also just. Do you know there's a Yale religion professor, his name is Miroslav Volf. He grew up in Czechoslovakia. He saw all sorts of atrocities committed by the government on his people. And at one point he was mad about a God who would make judgments. You know what he says now? After seeing those atrocities, I couldn't worship a God who didn't judge sin. I couldn't worship a God who would turn the other way and never punish those evildoers. I mean, if a judge has a murderer come before him and the judge knows he's guilty, and then the judge says, I love you, you can go, is that judge just? Is that a good judge? No. God is a good judge. In fact, Volf said, God judges because God is good. If he doesn't judge, he's not good. Does that make sense, Randy? Thank you.
Yeah, I love this question. In fact, it's one of the questions that I actually struggled with when I was a skeptic. I was coming out of Christianity, or I was kind of in that in-between space wrestling. Is how can God be good? How can he be loving if he's sending all these people to hell? And let's not just talk about the extremes. Like, what about like the innocent people who've never really known? And I think there's some intricacies and there's some mystery there that I discovered later that just was never taught in my church. But really quick, let me just offer some commentary on where I landed with some of this stuff. If God is just all love to everybody, and he allows anybody and everybody to come into heaven, where do we draw the line from where that love turns into not love? Because love is predicated on you choosing to love someone and refusing to love another person. For instance, when you're married, the reason you love your spouse is because you don't love other people in that same way. You have chosen because you two have made certain vows and you are connected by those vows, and those vows keep you. So for instance, most people would be good if God just let all the good people into heaven. You know, Oprah Winfrey, Mahatma Gandhi, all those people. He lets all those people into heaven, whether they believe in Jesus or not. Okay, but where's the line stop? What if we start letting some slightly evil people in? And then can we let all the way over to like people like Adolf Hitler and Mussolini and Genghis Khan, whatever, rapists, pillagers? What if he just let all those people in too? That I think the average skeptic or atheist would be like, well, no, I don't want those people in. And exactly. Okay, so we understand that God's love for somebody means he has to not love other people. And it's not that he doesn't love them, because John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world. He loves everybody. But God will not force his love upon another person. He won't force you to believe in him. He will allow you for your free will. This is the crazy thing about God. You have these two things in tandem: his radical, insatiable love for you and his commitment to allow you to have free will to govern your life. Those two things God will not violate. He will not violate your free will. The second thing that is very rarely talked about in some of these conversations, when they're saying, well, how could God do all this evil stuff, send people to hell, the Canaanites, all these things? How could he, if he's not love? And I think it's picking one point out of the story when there's like 10 points we have to consider. So if we're going to say, okay, this God is real, this God from the Bible, Yahweh, he's the real God, we have to then ask, okay, what does his text, what does he say about himself? How does he communicate? What is the rules in which this God operates, rather than just saying, okay, he's real and he's apparently love, and we're just going to judge everything by those two facts. Well, there's other facts within the story. Like, for instance, if God is real, how could he allow so much suffering in the world? Why is there all this suffering? Well, we're missing some really important beats to the story, as in the fall of man, that man in himself, Adam and Eve, fell. They introduced sin into the world. We have sin in our hearts. That God is not just allowing this. Once again, it's the love and the free will thing. He's not going to violate your free will, because the moment he violates your free will, you are no longer free to love. You are now a programmed computer to respond. And God doesn't want that. He doesn't want that for you. He would rather risk you going to hell to experience that, rather than just being forced to. I mean, that's not even a true relationship at that point. That's just automation. And so we have to remember, if we're going to take that he's real and that he is love, there's other beats to the story, like the fall of man, that we introduce sin into the world, that there's a curse upon the world, and that God has committed himself to keeping his word. He says, listen, if you eat of this tree, this is going to happen. And we did. And we introduced sin, and every single person has sin in their heart. And so the point is, sometimes we're answering questions without the whole scope of the worldview here. And that's some of the stuff that helped me when I was struggling with skepticism and atheism. Specifically, it was if God is just good, why does he send people to hell? Well, where do we draw the line? Where do we draw the line of who gets in and who doesn't? Because I certainly didn't want Stalin and Adolf Hitler coming into heaven. I wanted my neighbor, who is not a Christian, but he's a good dude. Okay, but we have to draw a line somewhere. And if we're going to say God is real, then we have to take him at his word. Hey, I just also wanted to say thank you so much for all the growth on the channel, man. Like, we just exploded in the last couple weeks. It's been really, really cool to see. Really cool to see a lot of you getting a lot from this. And I wanted just to explain again why I'm doing this channel. It's about 5 years ago, I was really struggling with my faith. And I had so many questions. And I was desperately searching. I just could not find the resources that I needed. And now, the Lord brought me through that, and I'm more solidified in my faith than ever. But I know there are many people, young men, young women, who are struggling with their faith, and they're desperately searching for answers. And so I want to provide a space where they can find these answers, specifically in a context where we talk about the miraculous as well. I don't think many people are talking about philosophy, apologetics, teaming with the miraculous, because that was a huge point for me of why I actually recommitted my life and stayed with Jesus, was because I saw miracles that I couldn't explain, and then the philosophical answers came and harmonized with that. And it was super helpful for me. So thank you so much for all the support. If you desire for people to be impacted like that, please hit the subscribe button. It means a lot. It helps this stuff get out. Hit the like, share it on your Facebook, whatever, if you feel so called to. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to watch some more videos, they're right here. I'll put them right there. Thank you guys so much. God bless.